This is a message to all my supporters of this podcast. I'm introducing a new supporters program. You can contribute a small amount as a one-off payment to show your love for this podcast. Thank you in advance for all your contributions. I just wanted to let you know before we start the podcast that I am doing an online podcast course, how to be able to create, get your guests, scale it and monetize it. So please do go to abmpodcastcourse.co.uk and go into the contact us bit. I'm looking for new people to be able to be a podcast creator and really to be able to develop their skills and knowledge into a podcast. So as I said, go to abmpodcastcourse.co.uk and sign up. Thanks.
This is the Absolute Business Mindset podcast, created and hosted by Mark Hayward. I am a corporate employee with an entrepreneurial mindset. This podcast will help and support you with new ideas about business. These are my thoughts, ideas, and comments. Today we have Deb Coviello, who is the founder of Illumination Partners and Dropping CEO brand. Hello, Deb. How are you?
I am doing amazing, and just simply thank you for the opportunity to just have a great conversation and, for your listeners and everybody else. Thank you.
Yeah, hopefully you get a sort of return on investment and you get maybe some listeners onto your podcast as well. I will obviously talk about your podcast later on, but we're going to go all the way back to your degree, which was in biomedical engineering. So tell me about that. Why did you choose that subject?
Yeah, so thank you for that question. So going back even a little bit farther, I had been very much into math and science in grade school and thought that I wanted to be a doctor. So I entered universities first as a biology major, but I looked at the landscape, still loved the sciences, but I was not in a position to continue to go on to medical school or graduate school. I needed to get my 4-year degree in 4 years. And so I made the decision to transition into biomedical engineering because at the time that was much more marketable based on a 4-year degree and still leveraged math and science. And I'm happy that I made that decision. It set the stage for what I did going forward.
Okay, so just break it down for me because I'm a bit of a layman. What does biomedical engineering actually mean?
Well, it is at the core, engineering is being a problem solver. So where there are problems associated with the human physiology, maybe you have a damaged bone or maybe organs are not performing as expected. Yes, we can treat it with conventional medicine, but there are also ways to engineer solutions such as artificial hips, artificial limbs, things to simulate body organs or connectivity. So all that engineering work that people that if they are in need of something that's in the biological area, new heart, new hip, etc., we are the ones that are the problem solvers. But I didn't stay in that field, but it was a great, great foundation to support my love of the science, math, and solving problems.
Awesome. And I've done some research and you talk a lot about solving problems. So we'll come to that a little bit later on. But you then did a professional leadership program. What was the need? What did you feel that you were missing? And what did you get from doing that leadership program?
So, Mark, I'm really pleased that you asked that question because this was actually a cyclic journey for me. So obviously being a good student, nose down, doing my studies, getting good grades, but I've always been, I think, very much of an extrovert. I always like speaking. I always ask questions, why? And as I was moving from my third into my fourth year, I had a strong yearning for leadership, speaking, leadership development. And so through a rigorous selection process, I applied to be in the professional leadership program, for which I then was selected and enjoyed a full year of guest speakers. And as an engineer, having phenomenal skills from an amazing university, but also starting to develop my skills in the area of management, leadership and public speaking. And that is something so necessary in the science and technology field. And I, at the end of that year, was selected to lead the entire group in a retreat because I'd demonstrated leadership skills. So I really think that was the beginning of me recognizing more than simply being a technical leader, but I could be a leader of other leaders.
So let's just delve into leadership. So what on that qualification, on that program that you did, what was the initial definition of leadership?
The initial, could you repeat that? What was the initial what, please?
What was your definition? What was the program's definition of leadership?
For me back then, and leadership in my mind has evolved over the years, but I think it was starting first and foremost, my ability to speak and communicate, because that's always been a strength of mine. So if I can speak and articulate, or here's the problem that we need to solve on this retreat, my ability to speak concisely for people to understand is one of the key characteristics of leadership. And that's, I think, how I had defined it way back then. Thank you for that question.
Yeah, it's interesting because you've obviously done a lot within the leadership realm later on in your career, but I find it interesting that at the start you saw the need for yourself to become a leader, and sort of these extra things that you've done further down the line. I think it's really fascinating that you noticed quite early on in your career that you needed to be able to manage and to lead others.
You know, I would love to enrich this discussion because leadership, I think, can be simply a manifestation of the gifts and skills that you already have. And I will share with you, and I have this also in my podcast, I love where this conversation is going, is that I've always been a talkative person. I've always thought out loud. And through the educational system, while I was extremely talkative, at points they would say, you know, I'm very talented, but could my parents manage me so I would be less talkative? And there are many stories over the years leading up to where we're at now in my college career, where I would start showing up again in an extroverted, speaking, communicating way, and then I would go quiet again. However, starting with the professional leadership program in my university years, I think that was the beginning of me recognizing that my communication was simply one part of my leadership. And that's, again, I think just a core strength that has developed and evolved over the years.
And last question on leadership until a little bit later on, but what type of leader do you think you are now? Because I've talked on my podcast about different types of leaders, whether they're autocratic, whether they're diplomatic, whether they are, there's like 20 different types of leaders. What do you have a definition for what you think type of leader you are?
So I have continued to evolve. There are maybe other types of leaders, your servant leadership, the one that's the coach and mentor. The thing that is resonating with me right now that I think speaks to the core of who I am is that human-centric leadership, because one of the things that I realized as I was coming out of corporate and then I was evolving my voice in the entrepreneurial space is that as I was extremely talented in my engineering and problem-solving skills, I learned that through people, and there's stories behind that if I could elevate people and develop their skills, I've came to find that humans are the most important tool in your toolbox. And so the more that I can develop others, as well as invest in myself and develop my leadership style, I can serve a greater purpose versus simply solving a business issue.
Okay, awesome. So we're going to go back to your first couple of roles, and you were a quality systems and planning manager. Now, what I read was for missile systems division. Is that actually missiles that you were working with?
Yes. So Raytheon Company, which is the parent company that still exists today, had several business divisions, and one of them was missile systems versus equipment systems versus submarine signal systems, all in support of commercial and military systems. So I had the great fortune of receiving a lot of good coaching and leadership development while working within Raytheon, specifically several of those years in the missile systems division. So I worked on production lines that provided components that ultimately wound up in providing all of the electrical, mechanical for missiles used in our defense systems, both U.S. and other countries.
Wow, that sounds fascinating. So you then took a couple of quality assurance roles, and then you moved into fragrances and fragrance ingredients, which has been a theme for the rest of your career. Now, what I read was that you actually saved $6.5 million within that role. How did you make those savings?
We'll be back after a quick break.
Hi, I'm Alex, the host of X Health Show. Meet the future of healthcare. Think X-Men, that's X Health. Actual superheroes behind programming living cells to cure cancer once and for all. Tech that detects preterm delivery in seconds, brain-computer interface, or apps that employ AI to match you, your disease, with the best treatment. X Health Show brings to you visionaries who push the boundaries of healthcare from Switzerland, the heart of Europe and the most innovative country in the world. Let me introduce you to their startups. Head to X Health Show, meet the future of healthcare. Happy to greet you there.
So again, through elevating others.
Right.
You know, I'm trying to think back, because we're starting to go back many years, but I do know that in my head of operational excellence for Givaudan, which is the #1 global flavors and fragrance company, I started honing in my skills in the area of operational excellence. So, you know, I started out in the quality area, but quality is so tied to continuous improvement and operational excellence. And so in that process, I then became not only one that actually saved money by bringing in certain outsourced production capacity in-house, saving money to the company. I was then also responsible for the training, the education of many, many other people within multiple divisions of the company. And through coaching and helping them also work on their projects, we then yielded several millions of dollars in cost savings across two dimensions, both operational efficiencies, better, faster, cheaper, as well as in material savings, which can be negatively impact your cash flow in business. So yes, there's quality components, but there's that expanded view of everything that can impact the bottom line in an operation. So I simply love it. I can do the work myself, but there's great reward in being able to also help others learn the skills to be able to do it themselves.
So let's just delve into quality. So quality might be a quality of a product or quality of a service, or how does quality how do you work through, because in one of your roles you saved with developing quality products, and how does the definition of quality work, delve into different areas of business? You've done it across different industries. What are the sort of themes that are critical for quality in that product or service?
Fantastic question. Thank you for that. I mean, quality is all-encompassing and maybe a mysterious word to many, but at the essence, quality for me is compliance to standards. So if you have a specification, if your house is supposed to be a certain height, a certain width, or the water is supposed to flow at a certain rate within your home, there is a specification for which there's a standard that needs to be met. And any deviation from that standard can result in waste, defect, defects, lost time, money, lost brand loyalty, and customers that go away. So there's many facets of that. But again, at the end of the day, it's those people that are responsible for ensuring that we understand what the customer requirement is to meet that requirement in the area of quality. Because at the end of the day, you are selling to consumers. They have a certain expectation. And if they don't get a Coke that tastes like a Coke each and every time, then you lose brand loyalty. So it's also hard to understand because sometimes we say we need to invest in quality, better technology, better equipment to assure that we get quality in. And sometimes business leaders don't recognize that those investments are necessary until we start having defects, until we start having customer complaints, and we lose brand loyalty. Then some leaders will then start investing in quality and capability. The best organizations that I've seen think about quality in a more holistic mindset, in the assurance, because there's many different areas of quality. There's quality engineering, quality control, checking it, make sure it's good before it goes out. And then there's the quality assurance dimension where I love to stay, because it's if you invest in assuring that the systems continue to be effective, to make sure that the food, the fragrance, whatever it is that the consumer buys and consumes is safe, is always going to meet their brand expectations. If we don't invest in the upfront, the preventive work, making the investments before we have an issue, you can pay the price much more significantly later in lost market share. So I prefer to be in the area of quality assurance, making sure the standards and systems are in place, and not only do we comply with them, but they're also effective for the long term.
And so I'm assuming that there's processes and systems that are put in place in quality assurance to maintain, as you say, a Coke tastes like a Coke, and that there's no deviation on there. But how hard is it to do the processes and systems to implement there if, say, a company isn't keen on putting those processes and systems? How would you sort of ensure that the quality assurance is as it should be?
So you are going to the core of what are then the challenges, because when we train our quality professionals in organizations, we give them all the technical skills, how to do root cause analysis, how to graph performance, how to do design of experiments to optimize a process or write great procedures and educate people. But at the end of the day, and this is where the human-centric leadership comes, is that sometimes we are met with these challenges on how do we influence leaders to make decisions that may not be a return on investment or obvious. And so there are a few things that I do train leaders on, because sometimes they'll present information and then they walk away from a meeting empty-handed, unable to convince people to make a change or a decision. And some of the things that I will teach leaders in the area of influence, which sometimes we don't teach our leaders, but how can you influence better to get a different result? And so I teach them, one tool is to not only present information, but present it in a place or in a way that has risk and impact. And then after they've been able to quantify or qualify the risk or impact, and we're starting to delve into the area, the language of business. If you can qualify it in the language of business, and then come forward with a proposal on what should be done, I guarantee you those technical professionals in the area of quality will have a better, more productive conversation, speak in the language of business, and being able to influence a better result. And also, there is one other thing, and I will tap into my lean methodology from continuous improvement. Long PowerPoints, big charts, lots of data also deter making business decisions in the area of quality. But I have learned by simplifying things, distilling it down to the essence of visual graphics that show where you are in compliance and where you're not. Green versus red. Dashboard, simple, creates a message. I coach quality professionals that also can be a very good influential tool to get a better result.
Well, we could go because I've got a couple of other questions about incremental change. I'm very big into making small changes every day to benefit on the long term. But I'm going to have to hold back on the questions. We've got quite a lot to cover, and I want to cover all of it. I'm going to take a left field change. You have a role in the US Women's Curling Association. Do you play curling? Did you?
I'm so grateful for this. Yes, I curl.
Right, right.
Oh gosh. So thank you. So, as my children were starting to leave the house and I had been so focused on my career as well as serving my family the best I could, there came a point when my first child went off to university. I had to make a decision to start doing something for myself. So good friends of ours were wonderful friends today, Rachel and Bob. They introduced us into the sport of curling about 10, 11 years ago. And while physically challenging, it is an athletic sport. My husband and I have come to enjoy it, the sportsmanship, the rich culture of the sport of curling, experiencing the U.S., getting the gold medal, which was a tremendous thrill and a bump to the sport, and also the giving back and the volunteerism for which I've held various positions within my own curling club. But now I have the great fortune of representing my club as well as holding a communications position within the USWCA, United States Women's Curling Association.
Oh, that is amazing. I think that is absolutely fascinating because it's taken a passion of yours, something that you did when you're older, and then brought it forward with all of the skill set which you've developed over the years and being able to do that. And I assume it's all voluntary, is it?
Yeah, it's all volunteerism. That's the beauty of the sport. People will come out of the woodwork to support the sport and help others. And if I might mention, because if we can't cheer our own on, I also won a silver medal in 2017 with a lovely group of women in Arena Nationals. And again, simply a feel-good thing to know that you've also mastered the sport in addition to being able to give back.
That's amazing. That is amazing. I think that's fascinating. Right, we're going to take a shift in your career. So about March 2019, you made a deliberate change away from quality assurance into becoming a speaker, mentor, and content creator. Why did you take that change in your career in March 2019?
So, Mark, I listened to your podcast. First of all, you've got amazing podcasts. I've become to really enjoy listening to a fellow podcaster. But I will tell you, the reason for that shift or that need to yourself out there, to volunteer, to speak, to create content, I absolutely have to give credit to a couple people that came into my life from January to March of 2019. I will mention the author and business leader, Dorie Clark. Dorie Clark had 3 books, Stand Out, Reinventing You, and Entrepreneurial You. And in that, she keenly advises, one, you have to network, but you also have to establish your own expertise in your niche, as well as creating content, giving back, putting information out the world, and that is through writing, speaking, etc. It is, and I have found it has been critical to being somewhat very visible within a company, but invisible to the broader world. And by taking a chance on myself and believing that I have something to offer, to say that will benefit others, to put it in written and video content, reinventing you and becoming a subject matter expert and a thought leader is one way of helping to build your entrepreneurial journey. So there are other authors that have influenced me, but I'll pause there.
Okay. And do you have a go-to speech? What's in your locker when you're being asked to do a speech, and you've been given a little bit of free rein? What's your go-to speech?
So there are 2 speeches right now that really resonate with me, and they're both personal stories, but hey, those are the best ones to share because I really think others can learn. And the first one is my story about reflective leadership. I was going through a challenging time as the head of quality for Givaudan flavors, and again, every leader must have those challenging times, but out of that, going through a process of reflecting not only on what I was going to do as a leader to change the circumstances that we were experiencing. We were not performing that well. Going to a place of thinking about why was I even a leader in the first place, and how was I going to lead differently? And that's where the thought about the humans are the greatest tool in your toolbox came to me, for which I share the story of then sharing that with my global leadership, coming to a place where it wasn't appreciated, my new reflections on how I was going to lead differently, to coming out of it and realizing I should do exactly that. And it only came through a process of reflection. That's certainly a go-to story that I find really resonates, because I think leaders pride themselves in doing so much, but we never take the time to simply pause and reflect. So reflective leadership is one of two speeches and talks that I absolutely love to give.
I'm very very big on reflection and giving yourself time outside of the day-to-day running or the managing or the leading, because I think a lot of people never spend enough time on reflecting on their day, their week, to actually make change, make whether it's incremental change, whether it's major shifts, because they took time to reflect. Is that something you promote in your leadership program?
Yeah, absolutely. So it comes down to discipline and accountability. And I will say for us that have that entrepreneurial spirit, we want to go in many, many different directions. But when I reflect on my past performance, and again, maybe I've been an entrepreneur for many, many years, it is beautiful to have new ideas and explore new things and innovate. But at the end of the day, we also have to demonstrate discipline and accountability. And so to your point, and I listened to one of your podcasts, I reflect daily, weekly, monthly against a 5-year plan of goals, and forcing yourself to take that time. What do I need to do today to advance? What do I need to do this week, this month, etc.? And then about once a month reflecting, am I moving in the right direction, or has something new popped in that maybe I should consider, not to derail the plan, but maybe be open to new possibilities? So accountability, discipline, key for the entrepreneurial leader.
Oh, absolutely. Accountability, I think, is really critical. And for me, I have a mentor which I've worked with for about 5 years, and he gives me accountability. I'm actually personally quite good at actioning things. I don't procrastinate very much. I tend to do things which hopefully will help me on my entrepreneurial journey. But as I said, I think reflection is so important to make change. And just on you said you've got 5-year goals. Would you mind sharing one of those 5-year goals?
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't want to, if they're personal, I totally understand.
Obviously there's 3 dimensions to my Google spreadsheet. I love Google spreadsheets. One of them is obviously revenue goals, for which there are many activities under there, not to all be done at the same time, but staggered as I'm ready to do them. And then obviously development goals, investing in myself so that I can come out stronger in the world. And then just personal balance, which is always a struggle for me. But I will tell you, there is something that I see. I can't even paint a picture. I can see the picture, but I see myself on a stage. I see myself on a stage someday, having the opportunity under bright lights to be able to share my thoughts and views with others, because what I'm saying not only is relevant, but also significant, because what I share, what I've learned from others through my podcasting, reading, etc., I am going to be able to help such a large group of people, and the visual that comes to mind is being on a stage. Now, that's not the end of it, but with all the things behind that, being relevant, putting myself out there, getting my thought leadership, writing, creating, giving value back, the speaking opportunities, my consulting business, building up the stories on how I've served clients, folding that back into giving back. I see myself on a stage. I don't know when, but it's going to happen.
Okay, awesome. So you talk about giving back. You're a board director and mentor for women in the fragrance area. Is this something that women need help in their business? Is it primarily focused on the fragrance side, or is it based on the sort of leadership of how to enable women to be leaders?
So thank you for that question. So I belong to an amazing organization, Women in Flavor and Fragrance Commerce, where about 20 years ago, a group of women from that industry created a community, a network, an organization for which we provide education to ourselves, bringing insights from industry leaders, learning about different parts of the industry, as well as providing a networking opportunity. And there are 3 chapters in the United States. But I knew this would be my people because obviously I'm from the industry and I wanted to connect with more women supporting others. But mind you, I will say mentoring is not just for women, because I have come to find through my podcasting, men equally need support and a mentoring environment. So, but I have the good fortune to be amongst a very fine group of women. And within a couple meetings of me showing up, extending myself, networking, connecting with different people so that I could maximize my understanding of the organization and impact. I was later selected to the board, and then I also was asked to be part of their mentorship program because I believe so much in giving back and elevating the future leaders. And so I currently mentor 2 people. This is in addition to one other that I mentor through the American Society for Quality. And I will find that in these areas, tremendously talented, ambitious people. You would think that they would be able to get any job that they want. However, along the way, either from a mindset perspective, or maybe the environment or the leadership changes, somewhere along the way, they lose their confidence or may not be totally sure where to go. And this is the perfect opportunity to understand where that comes from and to be able to pull back the leaders and have conversations so that they can discover, wow, they really can do so much more.
That's brilliant. What would you describe yourself as, more a mentor or a coach, or does it depend on the individual?
I actually looked up the definition of both. I mean, coach is kind of like we're getting ready for a major sporting event. Let's just go, go, go. And it's getting them ready for something maybe finite. And I think I come more into the area of a mentor because I invest my mental energy so much into the relationship through active listening, hearing them get to where they want to go. And it is for the long term. I mean, there's one person I've been mentoring for a year, another one a year and a half. It's more of a long-term relationship because I too get great joy by their achievements. And so it's really a much deeper investment, providing mentorship than just simply coaching.
Okay. Let's move on to your podcast, Drop-In CEO podcast. So tell me a little bit about it. What are the guests? Who are the guests that you have? What message are you trying to share? Because I've equally listened to a couple of your podcasts. Tell me a little bit about it.
So the Drop-In CEO podcast, providing insights and inspiration from industry leaders. So it all started, I mean, certainly from the standpoint of this was part of my plan to build out my brand, get my voice out there. But I think it was actually a personal journey for which along the way, I had many great leaders and managers, but I could not put my finger on anybody that really, really gave me great insights. There was a few along the way, some words of wisdom, nor did anybody inspire me. And inspiration is drawing out energy from within and discovering, to be your true best. And so I was actually, I think, in search of these industry leaders. And there's a qualifier. I am not initially looking for the people that have 20, 50,000 followers on a LinkedIn platform or Instagram, but real leaders who, through their own journey, their own stories, have risen to a point of leadership and also elevated others along the way. And how did they do it? That really is at the core, because through their journey and their stories, other people can learn and consider new ways of thinking or acting. But in terms of who are they? They are business owners, entrepreneurs, and also industry leaders, often from the flavor or fragrance industry, because I want to have conversations not just for the podcast, but for long-term collaboration. And for the audience, again, it's this group of people that are very self-aware, high performers that want to get some amazing content. You can go to the Drop-In CEO podcast and always come away with something new and something inspiring. And I think it's very similar to the genre of what you're doing. But I also hope people that are seeking that coaching and mentoring. I have the Human-Centric Leadership Academy and also the business leaders that might be able to utilize my skills to solve their business problem and help them to get to the next level through my expertise in quality and continuous improvement. So it started as a passion project, but I do see how it's an amazing networking tool, an amazing platform to get insights into the world and be visible and relevant and have an impact.
So I totally agree. I think we're starting from the same point. The people who I have on my podcast are intending to inspire, educate, help people on their business decisions, their business choices. And so I think we definitely come from a same place on that sense. I'm gonna take out of this theme that we're talking about your career. I heard on one of your podcasts you were talking about starting, stopping, and changing. So I was a scrum master in a software business for a while, where there was every 2 weeks of our agile sprint, we would do, what would you start, what would you stop, and what would you change? And it was a really powerful tool that we found, and I heard this in your podcast that I listened to. And so what would you start, stop, and change in your life now?
Hold on, I'm taking some notes, because
Okay.
I use the continue, start, and change, but it's fair. So start, stop, and continue. So I've actually had to reflect on this, but if you don't mind, I'm going to do it in the context of continue, start, and change, because I don't prefer stop. Stop means a negative. I'd like to use the context of start. When we think about my business journey and what I'm doing now, continue to be myself, continue to seek out the small and medium-sized companies that I can serve, continue to leverage my voice and these wonderful platforms for which we can educate, teach, and elevate people. So I will definitely be continuing podcasting, possibly adding on other things like webinars, anywhere that I can connect with people and have an impact and serve them. As far as maybe starting or stopping, I have to slow down a little bit, because one of the things, and I talk about this, the fortune cookie conundrum, is you get two fortunes. What should good things happen to those people that wait, and good things happen to people that go after them. So which do you do? Do you push and hustle as a business leader or in your career, or do you wait a little bit? And so one of the things that I am changing a little bit, not that I'm going to stop hustling and connecting with people to grow this business to sustainability, but what I might start doing or stop doing is close my laptop down at 1:00 on a Friday afternoon. Yes, I might work on a Saturday, but not work the whole weekend, because sometimes I could be pushing too much for things that are just not happening fast enough, and trust myself that where I've sowed the seeds, good things will happen. And as far as just changing, just reflecting on what I've been doing well. The podcast, I've changed frequency. I'm slightly changing the kind of guests that I want to engage with to continue to provide value. Simply course corrections, which is simply demonstrating of a reflective leader that others should do as well.
Awesome. So tell me about, you're the founder of Illumination Partners. Who do you work with? Who do you serve? Who are your clients?
So thank you for that. I found a sweet spot for the small and medium sized business leader, so business owner. So my niche right now at this time is servicing the flavor, fragrance, and food industry because my expertise has really come to its best in the last 16 years. So I'm actively looking for the business owner or the vice president of operations to start a conversation because I know and have felt their challenges, trying to service the customer, trying to get market share, trying to get things out the door, staying relevant, maybe even going through an acquisition or a closure. And I understand them. So I am seeking those individuals relative to my consultancy because I can truly serve them. I can give them peace of mind because I know what they need. I may even know what they can't see. And at the end of the day, they trust me to solve their business issue, whether it's a food safety certification, being a drop-in quality leader. I can do that for them. And I'm having wonderful results and just amazing relationships. But a business can't stand on one stream of revenue only. I have expanded into the Human Centric Leadership Academy, for which all the work that I do is also elevating the people that I interface with, and then also through the mentoring that we talked about. I have found that I have so much experience that I can offer to the people that are highly aware, have maybe hit a wall, know they're talented, but don't know where to go next. And they've never had the mentoring to fill in the essential skills that they need to not only understand their own mindset and their limiting beliefs, and I know you've talked about that, then understanding at a deeper level the people that they serve or interface with, and then finally a phase of understanding certain key interpersonal dynamics that result in higher impact. Those are also the people that I'm looking to serve because I think it's an underserved community for which there is work that I can do with them to help them.
Yeah, so let's delve into your leadership program, a human-centric leadership program. So, what I'm thinking is that there's obviously a type of leadership which you want to be able to promote and sort of encourage people to use as a framework, as a bedrock to lead the rest of their company. These people are not necessarily in the fragrance industry. They could be manufacturing, they could be service providers or something like that. You cover a breadth, because it seems to me that throughout your career there's been a theme of quality and fragrance after a certain point. You're trying to sort of extend that to other industries now?
Absolutely. So leadership transcends all industries. So I may have a larger network within the flavor and fragrance industry, but I will share with you that in my pilot course, people didn't just come from the area of quality. They came from sales. They came from project management. They came from regulatory entities. All have the same challenges. I'm not there to help them solve their technical skills, but where they have roadblocks is being able to be visible, be respected, and be heard. And that transcends all industries. So I've actually been having conversations with other business leaders in different industries, and it's resonating. Even if they are a human-centric leader themselves, and they know where they want to elevate their team, they may not have the capacity to do so, and they want a partner to help elevate their people so they can get the peak performance. So I'm talking to heads of quality, heads of operation in any industry, because leadership is leadership, and we all may be missing certain essential skills to get us to where we want to go.
Do all leaders need to have an entrepreneurial thread, an entrepreneurial spirit maybe, to be an effective leader?
Oh, you know what? I'd like to answer that slightly differently, because entrepreneurship is that innovation, that willing to take a risk. That can be in anybody, whether they're a leader or not. Your children are entrepreneurs. They're trying new things jumping off playground equipment just to see what happens. We're all entrepreneurs. I don't think a leader has to be an entrepreneur, but does have to be highly self-aware and have the ability to evaluate where they've come to and what do they need to go forward and where to make course corrections, and also know where they need help, they can still be very disciplined, stay very focused within a certain operations, a certain business process, and stick to that over and over again. There are various cultures I found over the globe that are tremendously good at leadership and executing consistently over and over again. You need leaders like that. However, there's a special set of leaders that are willing to put up all kinds of crazy ideas on a whiteboard and say, what do you think? And I kind of break that down into two types of leaders in an organization. You've got the CEO, which is, I would say, your entrepreneurial spirit. And then you have your COO, your chief operating officer, who needs to stay the course and consistently execute in order to generate revenue and get things out the door. They may not be an entrepreneurial spirit, but they're a very good leader. So they can be one and the same, but not always.
I'm just reading a book which has been on my bucket list for a while. It's called The E-Myth. Have you heard of it?
I've not.
So the
Tell me.
E-Myth is so I'm about halfway through, and it's talking about the three people, and this can be one person or it can be a team. You have the entrepreneur, you have the manager, and you have the technician. And within a company, whether it's one person or whether it's the different types of people in a process or system, you need to have all three, but they actually contradict each other in the business. So the entrepreneur is trying to come up with ideas and push the boundaries and bring this spirit through. The manager wants to have processes in place to enable those ideas to become reality and manage the people and the processes. And then you have the technicians, who are the people that just love doing that product or service, whether it's he talks about a pie shop, whether it's someone making a pie, whether it's people I used to work with who are tax professionals who really love the detail. And in business, there's always these three different arenas, and they're all vying for the dominance. And his story so far has talked about the importance of the entrepreneur as a small business owner. I know that's a very long-winded question, but what's your thoughts on those three different definitions within a business?
And you're referring to the specific roles, but are we talking also about then their leadership styles, or just?
How do you think people? Do you agree with that first of all? And do you have any further thoughts about leadership on that?
I think that, I definitely agree. I've seen that you need the person who sees the vision, sets the strategy, moves us forward, the manager that wants to execute against, metrics, and the technician that simply wants to do a good job at the end of the day. But when it comes to leadership, it can be different, but I might challenge or throw something at you that, sometimes the greatest leadership can be on the shop floor at the technician level. They have this ability to lead and influence others. And unless you tap into the technician leader who has the influence over the people, the manager may or may not be able to execute the vision that the CEO sets. So I'd be interested to know, you should be looking for leaders in all places of the organization. Sometimes a grassroots approach, influencing and working with the informal leaders at the technician level, they may actually have some of the greatest ideas. And then the manager, who is one level above, who just wants to get the job done and meet the metrics and ship things out, should have the ability to see that leadership and be able to elevate it, because maybe that is a source of great ideas for which the manager can bring it to the CEO. So I believe mechanically in the structure that's described in this book, that as it pertains to leadership, don't assume that there's just certain types of leadership from the top down. Also look for it from the bottom up and from in between.
So I totally agree with you. I think anyone, even in a graduate scheme, can be a leader, and you really want to encourage. And I think that bottom up or accepting that leaders are all through the business, I think actually enables a great business, because you're elevating, you're improving, you're giving people responsibility to be able to be leaders, even if they are technicians. I think this works best in a B2C arrangement, because, for example, one that came when I was listening to this book was something like Apple. So Apple has branded itself, and their technicians, those those guys who are on the floor talking to people about iPads, iMacs, iPods, iPhones, whatever. They are the brand, and actually the importance of them to their brand is so critical and so important that, as you say, the role of the technician can be an incredibly important role for branding for the business.
We have to celebrate and acknowledge those people that work so hard to produce the products that service our customers, because they are the last frontier. They are the closest to the customer that can create a great experience or a negative experience. And I want to just share a quick story because this is so important. At one of my companies, I'll just say IFF, we were filming a video to discuss or educate the importance of error proofing and following the process. And I was videoing the manager, the middle manager. And as he was describing the process that was critical and educating others, we could see off to the side an associate or technician trying to meter their way into the video. And when we realized that they wanted to speak, we said, do you want to actually talk about this important point? And as soon as that technician stepped into the video and started talking and saying, this is how I do my job, this is why it's important, and if I don't do it this way, this is the impact that it's going to have on my customer. Talk about the beauty of an organization, one, that has had the leadership and the culture for people at the lowest level of the organization to understand it, and then kudos for the person that wants to step up and communicate a message about how they impact customers. So just love sharing these stories. Leadership can be anywhere in an organization, and as leaders, entrepreneurs, we need to recognize it.
Absolutely. Okay, so we're coming to the end of the interview. I've got 5 questions that I ask everyone. I've actually, whilst researching you, I don't know if it's directly because of the interview with you, but you've inspired a 6th question. So I know you've listened to the podcast, so you know the question. So I'm actually going to throw a curveball and ask a 6th question. I'm sorry for you being the guinea pig, whether this is a good question or not. But okay, the first question is, what's the best decision that you've made?
Best decision, personal. Marrying my husband. He's my best friend and he's my personal psychiatrist. I'm a complex person. And the second best decision, I would say, was to leave corporate and start my own business.
Awesome. What's the best advice you've been given?
From a wise person 10 years ago from the fragrance industry, when I asked, what should I do to change, to improve my career as this person was getting ready to retire, he said, change nothing. Be yourself.
Brilliant. Who has helped you most in your career?
On a personal note, I will actually have to say my husband again, because he understands me, he challenges me, but I will say there are several people that have been advocates that as I serve them, they serve me. Great person from IFF, Francisco Fortinet. But I will now say I've got a circle of mentors now that all they want to see is me succeed. And so they give advice, they make me think. Peter Gorel, Dave Hasse, and Jack Kaler.
That's brilliant. Thank you. Any regrets?
My regrets are that I didn't trust myself and believe in myself. I reacted to what I thought I should do and be. And when I finally unleashed that and started believing in myself, my voice and my being and the best part of me came through. And again, that all started with moving out of the corporate environment and starting my business, because I truly believe I'm now living close to my potential and helping others.
Brilliant. What are you most proud of?
On a personal note, my children, because through having a partner in parenting, I've now produced productive citizens. Most proud of, I have to say proud of myself, because I took a risk on myself. I believed in myself. I've launched a podcast. I've produced a course, and I'm talking to you now. So proud of myself for taking those risks. Thank you for such wonderful 5 questions. Now the 6th.
Now the 6th one, which you haven't prepared for. And as I say, I apologize again. But what does legacy mean to you?
Legacy is leaving a lasting impact. Thank you for this, because I talk about this on my video on my website, but it's really that impression of what you left with people, because I promise you that legacy of how you made people feel or what they remember about your impact is going to come back and reward you in the end. And I will say some of my clients that I have now are based on an impact that I left about 10 years ago. And then once I started networking, they came back and I was rewarded. So it's leaving a lasting impact, leaving a memory, and people want to come back and work with you.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Deb. And then where can people find you? Where would you like people to be directed to?
So I'm very active on LinkedIn, Deborah A. Coviello. My website is Drop-In CEO. You can also find me on Twitter and Instagram, Drop-In CEO. And if you simply want to connect with me, go to the Drop-In CEO /contact page, and let's continue the conversation.
Thank you, Deb. I really appreciate your time today. Thank you very much.
This has been an amazing interview. Thank you so much.
Yes.